to hell with snapshotting. I will not be bloody snapshotting. What I will be doing is showing you what I've been up to in last Epoch Season 2, Tombs of the Erased. Welcome back, beautiful people. The name is Wolf, and this is my Stormcrow Beastmaster Reborn, because I've played this build. It's one of my favorite builds in the game, because despite it being a minion build, it doesn't feel like a minion build. It's incredibly tanky, has a very good damage, some of the highest up there, especially if you do the snapshotting, which we will not be doing, because I don't want to. I dislike that particular playstyle. But also, on top of that, it's just a very battle magey feel, right? We're shooting lightning right now in the gameplay. As you can see, we are switching to cold very, very soon, which is what the original build actually has as well. So we will be doing some cold stuff, which is very nice. So we're just kind of meleeing in a minion build. It doesn't feel like a minion build, which to me are the best kind of minion builds. And it's just an incredible character all around with a wonderful ceiling. And it's not that difficult of a playstyle either. You essentially just auto-attack, which amps up your birds, and then, you know, you have your swipe that triggers your birds, and then you have a separate attack as well if you want to for ranged birdage, but also you have a powerful buff that gives you invulnerability. So it's a very straightforward, self-explanatory build. It doesn't require like a 3-combo setup to get one frenzy charge like some games do. But alas, I speak too much. Enjoy the gameplay. If you just want to see the planner, it is a bit of a grocery list for me. You can follow along if you want to. Just be warned, it is a preliminary list that you can find in the description box below. I'm kind of working on it, kind of perusing, because it's very difficult to tell how things will feel until I actually get the new items and approach the new content. Because after all, an Uber boss compared to a normal boss is going to have different requirements of both gear and presumably sanity. But yes, having that said though, in the description box you can find it. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. And let's talk a little bit about the build itself, shall we? So let us talk a little bit about the build planner. Now this is a grocery list, kind of a thing that I'm looking forward to, but it's not as intimidating as it used to be, because with the recent patch we can guarantee at least one LP stat, right? And that's very easy to do. As long as you do a dungeon of tier 2 and higher, you can select one of the stats to be guaranteed. So a strength-based Arthur's Legacy or a crit multi or something is going to be very easy to obtain. Which brings me to my first unique Arthur's Legacy. I lock in on this particular build. Minions, minion skills, attack speed. It is perfection for this build, so it is guaranteed and mandatory. We have the cleaver solution right here. Love this weapon. Our strength turns into intelligence as well, which is ward retention, which is what we're going to be generating a lot of. Ward, that is. So we're going to have a lot of sustain as well as just effective hit points. On top of that, more damage through strength and skill levels. Physical melee damage is not as important. It is what it is. But other than that, an incredible weapon, which I might be dual wielding with a different sword if I am going to not go with the shield. Right now I'm using the Carapace shield, which is for gearing, because 75% poison res right out of the gate is incredible. You could also run the Bastion, which is what I did last league, which makes you pretty much impervious to dying from anything that hits you nearby, because of course the block is phenomenal, and that's when you stack strength, which is what we do. But also I'm thinking about maybe dual wielding, which is a bit more squishy, but the damage will be insane if we are going to be using the Apogee sword. Now, I'm not sure if you are familiar with that. If I find it, I can test it. It is going to be a little bit more squishy, so it has me a bit more concerned considering the chest. But yeah, if you are looking at the sword, the Apogee sword, it's an incredible cold-based minion sword, which is incredible. And we can also use bumblebees or the bee idols to trigger the Frozen Vengeance, which is also an incredible, powerful boon. However, having a dual wield is going to be increasing your damage taken. And then, of course, if you're going to be using the new chest like we're planning to do, you will be transferring more damage to your minions. And since we're not snapshotting, our minions are more vulnerable. And if our minions die, we lose our damage. So it's a bit of a tricky thing. However, this mantle, nonetheless, regardless of the dual wielding, is going to be a lock-in as well. It's just too good of a chest. Strength, minion skills, movement speed, health. It's perfect. Once you get some like crow levels on that, oh, it's going to be so sick. I'm also trying to use this new necklace that came out. The Inheritance of the Erased. Looks like it might be really good for health and health regen. Health regen is going to give us sustain and more effective hit points due to our relic. More about that in just a second. but also some decent res. It's not going to be needed. I'm just testing this out because let's be real, the passive here, the every 10 seconds, is not going to be that important. You might as well go with like a nice Aurora's Time Glass. This is a very primalistic common item. I typically run this on my druids for the obvious reasons: endurance, attack cast, ward retention, death defy. It's perfect as well, but it's a lot more tricky to get considering it's very rare. And I did manage to pick up an Inheritance of the Erased already, which, you know, is very good. It's always better to have one crow in the hand than one potential crow in the air. Having that said, though, we are starting off with opal rings. Just 2 opal rings, because red rings are ridiculously difficult to get for me. I don't know why, but they're so difficult to get. So I typically stick with the opal rings. Attributes and cooldown recovery are perfect for this build. We want to hit a certain cooldown reduction on both our swipe as well as our Warcry, and opal rings do that perfectly. On top of that, we're going to get strength because we're strength stacking, minion damage because we do minion damage. Health regen is going to help us get more effective hit points and sustain, a little bit of health, and some much needed resistance. On the other hand, you can also go with minion health or minion dodge if you want more sustain. It's going to be really, really good because dead birds make sure that you don't do any damage at all. So make sure your birds stay alive. If they are staying alive, you can pump more damage. That's the way it goes. Elemental res, health regen, very good. So why is that health regen turning into effective hit points? Well, health regen is going to apply to ward as a result of Vessel of Strife. With that first line, a percentage of health regen also applies to ward. So we're going to be generating a lot of ward based on our health regen, which essentially gives us this large buffer of hit points that is constantly being recharged, while also recharging our health itself. So we have like this double sustain layer almost, which is very, very, very strong. I used this last league, incredibly powerful, and it's only gotten better. On top of that, it's going to give us a little bit of mana, ward retention, of course, which is going to allow that buffer to be bigger. So very, very comfortable, very difficult to get because it does require the tier 4 Temple Sanctorum dungeon, and farming that might be a bit of a tricky thing, but alas, it is going to be necessary for this particular build. If you don't have it yet, you could run something along the lines of just a value relic with some minion health or minion damage, or as I am doing in the server right now, the live servers, I am running that dedication of the Erased with some minion stats, which is very, very nice as well because chance to hit grants one of your main aspect of the spider. Just very lovely. More skills as well, some minion health, some health. It's just very comfy. So that's what I'm running prior to getting Vessel of Strife myself. One of the new gloves I'm looking forward to as well is the Raven's Rise. There's a bunch of nice resistances, which is very comfortable. Minion movement speed is just quality of life, but more importantly, when they are moving, they take less damage, and we get +2 minion spell skills. So getting like a nice strength on this is going to be very, very lovely. It's just a nice stat stick that is very helpful for our minions and helps gearing very, very comfortably. On top of that, we have our Advent of the Erased. You can just take like an armor pair of boots. If you don't get lucky, I happen to be quite lucky already by having Advent of the Erased with 2 stats. But ultimately, you want to find an Advent of the Erased with at least 2 to 3 stats, preferably movement speed and strength, maybe a little bit of cooldown reduction if you haven't hit that little threshold yet. But other than that, it is going to be really, really good because it's going to help us take less damage over time because we're generating haste constantly. We're going to be faster. And of course, we're also going to be generating ward as a result of that bottom line right there when you gain haste. And we're constantly gaining haste, which is very, very good. So that's kind of what the gear is like. The belt is just a basic minion health, minion damage build, cooldown recovery, health regen. I haven't seen any really good belts that fit this that I am really comfortable with, so I just went with the stat stick for our build. And once again, normally I would take health as opposed to health regen, but because of Vessel of Strife, health regen is sustained but also effective hit points, right? Because ward is just lovely. That's the gear. When we're talking about idols, things are a little bit up in the air because I'm going to have to feel out how it feels. I have decided to go with a very typical setup of the large nomad idol with 4 crit avoidance, which is not only going to make us crit immune, but also our minions, because we're not snapshotting, right? If we're snapshotting, it would be a different setup because our minions would be infinitely tankier. But since we're not, I'm trying to get some tankiness through this while also protecting myself. We're also going to get some more endurance threshold, which is comfy because they buffed that particular stat with the percentage health. And then if we can, ward decay threshold with ward per second just to help buffer ourselves up as well. Because for this particular idol, there are not many good stats except for ward per second. on the enchantment, so it's really up in the air. It's not really that important, as long as you get the crit avoidance and the health. We do this 4 times to be crit immune, obviously, and then the rest is essentially just up in the air. Just fill it up with resistances, whatever you need, and if you don't need resistances, you're going for ward retention and ward per second, as well as health and health regen, because once again, that's going to make us tankier, and it's going to give us even more health and sustain, and that's going to be really, really nice. So yeah, just try to get the crit immune, fill it up with whatever resistances you need, and if you don't need resistances, you add in the minor Weevil idols. Blessings are very straightforward. The Void Res, obviously. We are significantly overcapped on the Void Res as a result of Inheritance of the Erased. And yeah, so we could probably drop this necklace for something else as well, which is why I'm not really sure about it. The Aurora does start to look a lot more tasty now that I think about it, but alas. We're going to test it out and then make decisions later. We have some All Res, very nice for gearing, some Endurance, because we give a little bit of our Endurance to our minions. So we become a little bit tankier on low health. Our minions become a little bit more tanky on low health. It's just quality all around. If you don't want Endurance, you can always go with either Frailty on hit, although we're picking that up on the weapon. So Flat Armor is probably your best bet. Is that this particular? Yeah, here. Flat Armor, Grand Body of Obsidian is also really good if that's what you prefer. I'm, however, going to stick with Endurance because I am not snapshotting. On top of that, we have some Physical Res, which is going to take care of that. And then, of course, we have increased health, regen, and just flat regen to help once again with the sustain and the effective hit points through Vessel of Strife. So that's kind of the gear. This is going to be very much up in the air depending on how things feel. But it is, I think, a good baseline. It's just a slightly updated version of my previous build. But the passives have slightly changed. So we're going to make sure we go through that. We still have the 8 primal strength because we're strength stackers. A little bit of health because it's health. We do pick up some minion damage, but also some pot healing. Later in the game, you could probably get rid of this if you want to. I don't think it's necessary because it's still minion damage. The 5 out of 5 Hunter's Emanation because it's more minion damage, but also a little bit of sustain on our minions. And more importantly, the Primalist tax as opposed to the Beastmaster tax, which is Cornered Beast. Especially now that the effect lingers for 5 seconds. This is going to make you pretty much impervious to death on low health. So you always have a chance to just survive very painful hits as a result of Cornered Beast. And you should be able to go back up to full quite quickly because of all that regen we have. Especially the double regen, basically, right? Because we're regenerating health as well as ward at the same time. The Shaman is very simple right now. We have 8 points of Attunement and Penetration, 5 points in Sky Warrior. Not very important. It's just more damage, a little bit of quality of life. I did pick up some more points in Druid. I'm not sure about this. I am sure about the 5 and the 7 out of 7. Or at least the 5-point bonus because attributes and we are stacking strength. But I'm going to try to hit a little bit more minion cold damage with a freeze rate multiplier. The reason for this is because if we can get some freezes going, the enemy will freeze, which is very, very nice. And freezed enemies, they won't hurt us. And once again, we're not snapshotting. So this is like a very lovely built-in just defensive layer that you can also just throw away. You can also go with the Shaman version, which picks up Shattered Heavens, or you can just pump more stats into Beastmaster, which is also very strong. Speaking of Beastmaster, we are picking up the Ursine Strength. We're picking up 1 point Savagery to get the Ambush for more attack speed. 5 points for Call of the Pack, more health and more and travel notes. We are picking up 8 points of Natural Fortitude because the Porcupine, or at least not the Porcupine, the regen is incredibly powerful. 2 points for the Chase, just a bunch of travel notes, really. They're not that important. They're just quality of life. A little bit of attack speed, movement speed, just comfy. 5 out of 5 Porcine Constitution. This used to be the Beastmaster tax. Now it's just Beastmaster quality. It's so good since we're attacking so fast. This is pretty much always going to be up in combat. 1 more point in Life of the Wilderness to make sure that our endurance also applies to our companion. Very important. Do not forget that. We're picking up 10 points of Viper Fangs for the attack speed and the attack speed of companions. Well, not for the companions because it's melee attack speed, but the melee attack speed for us is going to make it so that our buffs for our minions are going to go ham very, very fast. It also means we don't have to really spec attack speed on our gear, which is very, very good. Now, we are picking up 5 points of Cry of the Lynx. You could probably cut a point or 2 right here. You need at least 3. But 5 points is just very comfy because you have 5 seconds of uptime. And it's just very, very nice. As long as your Cry of the Lynx has more, it lasts longer than your cooldown on the Crowstorm, you can keep it up indefinitely during intermissions and such, or if you just want to kite around. That's the important part. Other than that, it's a little bit more crit chance if you need to. We have the 6 out of 6 serrated claws because that's crit multi, and that's just incredible. And we're picking up at least 1 point for critical bite, because normally people will snapshot health gained on damage done by minions. We're just picking this up on the critical bite here, so every crit, and we should be close to or have 100% crit chance on our birds, so they should be continuously healing themselves with ridiculous numbers. So that's very, very good. And that's kind of the passives, at least. And then we go into the skills. Now, as you can see here, we're starting off with yours truly, the Tempest Strike. This is going to be your bread and butter. This is going to be your speed steroid, your buff tool. We're going to pick up Warm Shelter to reduce mana and attack speed increase. Same thing with Grounded Refuge. Because we're going to be mana neutral, Resurgence of the Land is going to give us infinite mana. Very, very good. We're picking up a little bit of area damage, just to make sure we can hit, because we're not doing damage with this skill. Gladiator of Lagan is one of the things we want to stack up as quickly as possible. And attack speed is going to help with that. It's going to buff us, as well as, more importantly, the birds. Speaking of, more buffs. And then if we have 50 intelligence, the buff is going to be 100% better on minions and super juice them into the moon. On top of that, we have some more attack speed and mana cost reduction. This is what makes us mana neutral. And then we have a little bit of Soaring Blows, which is irrelevant, because the thing that we really want is the Wind Booster, which is going to give us 3 seconds of haste every single time we cast a Wind Tempest, which is important because we also have damage with haste. But the reason why we are able to cast haste or create haste is because we're not picking up Calm Seas, which is what otherwise would remove Wind Tempest. That's what the tornadoes are that you continuously see in the gameplay section. So we're still casting those tornadoes, which are going to give us haste. And haste is, of course, going to interact with our boots and give us a bunch of ward and just a bunch of quality of life constantly, right? Because the boots are very, very powerful. Less damage over time taken while you have haste. And when you gain haste, you get ward. It's very synergistic. Smite is simply just a melee version of your companion skill as a result of primal resonance. It also heals your minions. So very, very good. We have a little bit of kill threshold for culling. I went 5 out of 5 area just to make sure that the hitbox of swipe doesn't feel super bad, because it is pretty bad without it. We're also picking up the 5 out of 5 Sabertooth's endurance because of health regen per stack. So that's more value. And of course, some global attack speed. Very, very important. Stormclaw, just quality of life because increased area. And a little bit of shock chance, which is just nice because it's more debuffs. Which is important because once we get to the Storm Crows, things get a little hectic. Because we have shock stacking. Which is going to, of course, be very, very good. Although that shock is going to turn into frostbite as a result of frigid winds. This is what is required to make them cold damage. Which is important because it's going to give us ultimately 250% increased damage, which you will see in a second. We are picking up, of course, the shock chance here to get there. A little bit of travel notes to pick up 2 out of 2 Thunderous Blasts, because we have 6 crows right now, so it's a lot of additional damage per crow. We have the Huntsman. This is like a big boon to the damage through our melee hits. This is one of the buff systems. A little bit of armor shred, so the more strength we have, the more they will shred, which is incredible because we're stacking strength. And then, of course, more damage per crow. We have 6 of them. Now, on top of that, we have Shatterbolt into 2 points of Pincers and at least 2 points of Observe and Learn. Once you've decked everything out, this is going to help you get close or actually crit cap and give you that 100% crit chance or close to your birds being able to just pop off, which is very, very nice as a result of, once again, our melee hits, right? So it's like a minion build, but we're not actually playing like a minion build because we are the minions and they are doing the damage, or they are controlling us. I don't know. It feels like we're the minion, but it feels like that in a good way. I hate minion builds that feel like minion builds. Anyway, War Cry. As you can see, we're doing the cold version. The reason why it's cold is because of the 5 out of 5 increased cold damage right here. 250% is phenomenal. And we also pick up 100% crit chance for 4 seconds every single time we War Cry. Now, we can War Cry every couple of 4 or so seconds because of Shallow Breath, bringing it down to 5. And then with cooldown reduction, we can get it to 4. So that's our first threshold, cooldown reduction for Shallow Breath to bring that 5 to 4. Very, very good. Apprehend is going to allow people to be sucked in as opposed to anything else, which is very, very good. Also helps our minions to do more damage because we pull them into the AoE, but also pulls them away from them, and also allows us to kind of reposition bosses like certain unfortunate ones that might stand in terrible, terrible AoE effects, and we can't do anything because we are melee, right? So being able to suck them out of AoE plants is going to be very, very good. Down here, it's just a basic invulnerability, a little bit of heal, and more importantly, the cleanse. So every 4 seconds or even faster, we have a cleanse, which is nice. Berserker, which is going to give way to brutality, which more importantly is going to allow us to stack some more attack speed as long as we keep that buff active. Now, and here's the wolf. We're not doing anything with the wolf. The wolf doesn't do anything. We're not going to summon it. We're not going to do anything. The only reason why we have the wolf here is because of this node right here, because that's maximum companion. That's it. Nothing else matters. It's just the +1 companion. That's why nothing is spent. It literally doesn't do anything. It's just here for pack hunters. That's how valuable that node is. We are, however, running with Fury Leap as our particular skill, but we're not speccing anything because the +1 companion is too powerful, way too powerful. But yeah, you can still use Fury Leap, of course. And that's kind of the build that I have planned. Hopefully this makes a lot of sense. I know it's a lot of yapping, but otherwise, once again, the planner is in the description box below. Yeah, keep an eye out. I'll be streaming on Twitch occasionally. If you have any questions, I am in the Discord. I can't promise I will give you a good answer because I'm still trying to figure things out as well as I move into deeper monoliths. But other than that, I hope you guys are having fun. It looks like an incredible season so far. A lot of people are blasting. I hope you are too. And I will see you guys in the monoliths. Have a good night. Thank you so much. I'm out.